a massive Greek merchant ship disappeared in the Pacific Ocean. She never sent a distress call. Her name was MV Pasithea. More than 3 decades later, her fate remains one of the great unsolved mysteries of modern shipping. She was one of the largest bulk oil carriers of her era, built in Japan in 1971 to transport enormous cargoes across the world's oceans. In the summer of 1990, Pasithea completed a voyage from Western Australia carrying iron ore bound for Japan. Her destination was the port of Kashima. She arrived safely and anchored offshore, waiting for permission to enter the harbor. But another arrival was already underway. Typhoon Vernon was approaching the Japanese coast. As Typhoon Vernon drew closer to the Japanese coast, port authorities instructed vessels anchored off Kashima to leave the exposed anchorage and head for open sea. It was standard procedure, intended to keep ships away from the dangers of dragging anchor in heavy weather. Fully loaded with iron ore, Pasithea weighed anchor and slowly turned toward the Pacific Ocean. She sailed into worsening conditions, disappearing beyond the horizon. That was the last confirmed sighting of the ship. No distress call was ever received. No emergency beacon was detected. Radio contact was lost. When Pasithea failed to report as expected, concern quickly turned into alarm. Maritime authorities launched a large-scale search across the northwestern Pacific. Aircraft and patrol vessels combed thousands of square kilometers of ocean, battling rough seas and poor visibility. During the search, crews reported an oil slick and scattered floating debris believed to be connected to the missing vessel. But despite days of searching, no survivors were found and no main wreckage was ever recovered. Without a wreck to examine, investigators were left with questions that remain unanswered to this day. As investigators looked deeper into the case, they discovered that Pasithea was not an isolated incident. During the 1980s and early 1990s, a number of large bulk carriers were lost at sea, often with little or no warning and with heavy loss of life. These tragedies raised serious concerns throughout the maritime industry and led to renewed questions about ship design, structural strength, cargo safety, and operations in severe weather. Whether any of these factors contributed to the loss of Pasithea has never been proven. Without the wreck, investigators could only compare the case with other disappearances from the same era. With no wreck ever found, the exact fate of MV Pasithea remains unknown. Over the years, maritime experts have proposed several possible explanations. None has ever been proven. Theory 1. Extreme weather. The most widely accepted theory is that Pasithea encountered the full force of Typhoon Vernon after leaving the safety of the Kashima anchorage. Towering waves, violent winds, and enormous stresses may have overwhelmed the ship. However, without the wreck, investigators have never been able to confirm exactly what happened. Theory 2. Structural failure. Another theory suggests that structural failure may have played a role. During the 1980s and early 1990s, several large bulk carriers were lost at sea, raising concerns about hull strength and the effects of repeated stress over many years of service. Whether Pasithea suffered a similar failure remains unknown. Theory 3. Cargo shift. Some experts have suggested that the cargo itself may have contributed to the disaster. A fully loaded bulk carrier can experience enormous forces in severe weather. If the vessel developed a heavy list or suffered structural damage, recovery might have become impossible. There is, however, no direct evidence that this occurred aboard Pasithea. Theory 4. Combination of events. Perhaps the most likely explanation is that no single event caused the loss. Instead, investigators believe a combination of severe weather, heavy cargo, and structural stresses may have created a situation from which the crew could not recover. Without the wreck, this remains only a theory. Closing more than 3 decades later, the Pacific Ocean still guards the final moments of MV Pasithea. The ship, her crew, and the answers disappeared together into the storm. For the families left behind, the search never truly ended. Days became weeks, weeks became months. Every knock on the door, Every ringing telephone brought a moment of hope, followed by silence. Some kept a light burning. Others left an empty chair at the table, refusing to believe that their loved one would never return. There was no farewell, no grave to visit, no final answers, only questions that have remained unanswered for more than 3 decades. The Pacific Ocean never revealed what happened to MV Pasithea, but for those who waited, time never truly moved on. They kept waiting until they no longer could. Dedicated to the crew of MV Pasithea and to every family who never had the chance to say goodbye. May we never forget their story. More than 3 decades have passed, yet the fate of MV Pasithea remains unknown. We hope that one day, advances in technology and renewed interest in maritime history may help uncover the truth. The story of MV Pasithea deserves to be remembered